What is up, guys? It's Jim here. How's it going? Happy Monday. Welcome to the stream. Hope everyone had a good weekend. Let me know if you did. I had a great weekend. What did I do this weekend? I actually went on a date on Saturday night. Weird. That was interesting. And then on yesterday, I basically sat at home and did a whole lot of nothing. And Friday night, I took it easy because I had a lot of work to do on Friday. So today, what are we going to be doing today? So today I'm going to be doing a few things. I'm going to be going through a recently completed commission I just finished. I'm going to show you guys my Mortarion that I just finished for commission. I'm also going to be painting some Death Guard. So I have two Contemptors with Relic with Volkites. So I'm going to paint those. I'm going through my Death Guard armor recipe. And then I'm going to also be just chatting a little bit about the tournaments this week, some of the other news and stuff happening in the 40K game. All right, so with that said, I'm just going to show you guys here. So I have a new, as you see, again, my camera angle has changed. So just trying to listen to everyone's feedback, kind of figure out what people like best. And so I've been kind of constantly tinkering with the camera angle. So let me know if you guys like this kind of camera angle. I'm not quite sure if this is kind of the best one. Hey Brian, how's it going, man? Thanks for joining. So this is the third different camera angle I've tried. So first one was like a lot higher. The second one was kind of over my shoulder. This one's kind of directly up. So let me know if you guys like this camera angle. I'm still kind of figuring out what I like, but definitely think that this has been the most popular one so far. So I just finished a Death Guard commission. This is for 7 models, the number of Nurgle, ironic. And I just want to kind of take you guys through some of the models we did. So I did show them on stream a little while ago. So I did all 7 of the Death Guard characters. So I'm just going to kind of bring these up here. So we have this guy here. This is a Tallyman. We have a Foul Blightspawn. Like little loot pack. We got a Biologist Putrefier. He is basically pretty jank. He's got some cool abilities. A Malignant Podcaster. Also finished a Tallyman. And a converted Lord of Contagion with a Scythe, because a lot better with a Scythe. Lord of Contagion. Alright, and then today I also just finished Mortarion, so I'm going to pull him on screen. Quite big. Here is Mortarion. And again, all of these models were painted in the classic Games Workshop theme. So I tried to kind of follow the box art as close as I could. Didn't go exactly, because I like to have a little bit of my own flair, but and a little bit of extra pop on mine. But that's the Mortarion that I just finished also. Yeah, pretty cool. So these are going to get shipped off tomorrow to the client. I've already sent him photos, so he's really excited to get these. I hope, anyways. And yeah, there's Mortarion, so I'll kind of put him over there. So what I'm going to be working on today is two Contemptor Dreadnoughts. So I got these Forge World models. These are Death Guard Contemptors with Volkites. So I got four Volkite guns here. These have been magnetized. And then I have the 2 Dreadnoughts here as well. So I got 1, and then I got 2. And these are basically, I didn't do really much conversions on these. These are basically exactly as they come. The one thing I did do is I switched out their heads with heads from the Death Shroud. They have like a little bit of kind of Death Shroud in there as well, so which is pretty cool. And these are obviously magnetized, just because I actually ordered all of the different Death Guard weapon kits. So I can do like autocannons, missile launchers, close combat weapons, that kind of stuff. So that's the reason I magnetize these. So really helpful to kind of do that. And I'm going to go through how I paint my armor for my Death Guard as part of this stream as well. So make sure to pay attention to that. If I've had a lot of questions about how I do my armor, and I want to make sure everyone kind of gets it. So I'm going to actually start by airbrushing these, and I'm going to go through my armor recipe. And then while I do all my airbrushing, I'm going to just kind of talk news a little bit. So my armor recipe is as follows. I'm going to base coat everything with Rakarth Flesh. So this is kind of Games Workshop color. I don't love this color, as to be honest. Sorry, I like the color. I don't like the paint. Rakarth Flesh from Games Workshop is like incredibly chunky. I don't know if you can kind of tell. like how chunky it is on camera there. But it literally, this is like, you can see the kind of like little chunks in there. So this often clogs my airbrush. It's not great. And then I'm going to do the whole thing, and then I'm going to do all the armor trim with this color from Scale 75. This is Decayed Metal. So this is like a nice dark brass color, one of my favorites. And then the whole thing is going to get a wash of like a 50-50 mix of Secret Weapon algae, and algae is like, it's kind of like a blue-green color. This is like a pretty fun fun little color. It's definitely like not not quite green, but it's like kind of a desaturated muddy green, so I really like this color. And then basically, then once that's all washed, I basically go back and I start to highlight. And so what I highlight with is Rickarth Flesh to start, and then I do a 50-50 mix of Rickarth Flesh and Pro Aqua Bright Warm Gray. The Bright Warm Gray is really nice. It's kind of like it's a gray, but it's like it's a little warmer, but it's also a little bluer as well than traditional gray. So it's got a little bit of shade in it. And then basically I go 75% bright warm gray, and then I go pure bright warm gray. So that's kind of the armor recipe. And then for the trim recipe, I'm gonna do my, after I've washed with decayed metal, I'm gonna start with decayed metal again, and then I'm gonna add to the decayed metal a little bit of Scale 75's heavy metal, and I'm gonna do some highlights with that as well. So that's kind of the recipe for the armor. All right. So check out. How's the focus on that? Like sometimes this is not as focused as it. That's pretty good. All right. All right, so that's kind of the armor recipe. So I'm going to start airbrushing, and then while I'm kind of painting, I'm going to talk a little bit about the tournament news from this weekend. There's a little bit of drama, which I want to cover. A few other things just want to kind of chat about. Hopefully, a few more people join in the stream. We can have some cool conversation. You can let me know what you guys think about what I'm going to be working on. And yeah, so it goes from there. So here, I'm going to grab my trusty airbrush box. So this is basically an old plastic box, or sorry, an old cardboard box I've been using for like what I feel like is 100 years. Do my airbrushing in, and this is yeah, it's definitely seen some things. Probably got about 7 years of like airbrush in there, so it's pretty fun to use as far as I'm concerned. Right. Let's see here. So my Dreadnoughts. Now, one little handy thing I like to do for my magnetized models. I kind of went over this in my last stream, but I have. Let me show you. Let me see if I can find it. Here we go. So this is basically a paint stir stick from the store, but I've glued onto it a piece of tin, a really thin piece of tin. And so what allows me to do is just basically take my magnetized pieces, sorry, and basically just use that as my airbrush tool. So see how handy that is? So really highly recommend having one of these. I have normal ones without anything, and this is where I'll stick some double-sided tape, and that way I can hold these as well. But for the purpose of these models, I'm just gonna do them as is. So get that kind of insight. So all right, let's talk some other things. So this is what I'm working on right now. As soon as I'm done these, I'm gonna move on to my Deathtrap Terminators, which I'm excited to do as well. I just painted a bunch of Death Guard infantry, so I'm feeling a little bit more motivated to paint vehicles. And I would highly recommend you magnetize Dreadnought arms, just because the meta changes a lot and the options change a lot. And These models are expensive, the Dreadnoughts. You don't have to be buying like 3 or 4 of them just to have all the different options. Always recommend that. Right. Got my paint. So just so you guys know, so this is kind of what we got here. So it's basically about 3/4 of Vallejo airbrush thinner goes in there with my Karth Flesh. I'm just using an old brush to kind of mix it around. Now for this initial base coat, because I'm doing a base coat, I actually do want a fairly high pressure. I'm going to turn this up to about 25 psi. And give it a little backflow. A little test spray. Good, okay. So, let's get in there. Alright, so I'm just going to start with one very light coat. Remember guys, with the airbrush, key is just like really light coats here. Don't want to go too crazy. Especially for that initial base coat. And yeah, I'm just going to kind of do this around. It's a lot easier to do the armor panels this color than to do the silver. And then, so don't bother trying to airbrush. There's like obviously some areas in around there that are armor panels. So just, sorry, that are like mechanical bits that are not going to be white. So don't bother airbrushing those too much. Just mainly get the parts that are that are actually going to be white. And yeah, so a few other kind of fun things. I just finished, for those of you that read Black Library novels, I just finished Penitent, which is book 2 of the Elizabeth Beckwin trilogy, which is basically the 3rd trilogy in the Eisenhorn trilogy. So if you've read the Eisenhorn novels, Ravener and Eisenhorn, the Beckwin trilogy is basically there's a 3rd trilogy based on her, Elizabeth Beckwin. She's one of the characters from the original 2, and then this is it's supposed to be the final trilogy in the whole Eisenhorn kind of saga. So this is, I just finished that on audiobook. It is a great, I wouldn't just say it's a good book, it's a great audiobook. The narration by this lady named Helen Keeley, I think, is awesome. This is actually, I think, one of the first 2 books that I've heard that they use a female narrator. Most of the ones that I've read have been 30K novels, and those are usually done by a guy. So it was really interesting to see a female-centric novel, because Elizabeth Beckwin, the main character, is female, narrated by a female. So that was, it definitely added a little bit. Added a bit to that as well. And obviously I listened to the audiobook because I can paint while I do that. So now I'm just trying to figure out what I want to read next. All right, so that guy's got his kind of first coat. So I'm gonna kind of go over here, dry, come on to the next one. Anyways, there's a cliffhanger ending in Penitent, and it's probably one of the craziest cliffhangers. Like, I don't want to spoil it for anyone because the book just came out, but it's like it's like lore breaking. Like, it's probably one of the, like, sorry, I don't want to just call it a cliffhanger. It is a cliffhanger. I think a bigger way to describe it would be a revelation. There's a revelation regarding a certain character in 40K that is like gonna send shockwaves through like the whole like game. So I'm actually surprised they let Dan Abnett do the thing that he did to that character in the way that he did it. And that's all I'll say. I highly recommend you reading the books. Highly recommend you check them out on Audible too, because the narration is great. You can listen to them while you paint. It's a really good value too, because you're basically getting like 13 hours of audio content for 50. You're getting like a $50 audiobook for about $15 a month, because if you just use your free credit. And I actually don't actually using all my credits every month, so I usually have a few extra credits always. So if like there's a month with a few book releases that I like, I can get both usually. Yeah. Alright, so that's kind of base coat 1. So I'm gonna basically load up my airbrush a little bit more, getting ready for a second base coat. So show you guys kind of how this is done. Okay, so little flow improver in there. Grab my old brush. Side up really nicely like that. Rub off my brush, get that cleaned. Alright. Backflow. What does Kenny call it? Gangster gumbo. Love it. Okay. Alright, so now we're gonna just go in for our second base coat. And from this, like from these base coats, I'm working pretty far back. And the second one I can usually do a little higher, heavier. Just be careful with these base coats because yours is probably like a fairly heavy coat. So make sure you give it plenty of time to dry. So just nice, thin back and forth. And back and forth. So there's also another tournament this week. There's a big tournament this week called Clutch City GT in Texas. This is, I think, one of the only majors we've had so far this year. And obviously it's in Texas because Texas is crazy. So 75 people. Looks like like masks were required, which is great. And it was won by Sean Naden with a very, very janky Eldar list. There was some drama at the end because basically it was found that his list was actually illegal. The part that was illegal is fairly minor. It was just it had to do with his it had to do with his what are they called? The little birds. I forget what they're called. Anyways, he had basically the unit size is supposed to be 3 to 5 or 3 to 6, but he had 1 because the codex, apparently the app, the GW app, which is what he used, listed as a different amount in the unit. So he went off kind of like incorrect information, which can't really blame him. I mean, the GW app is pretty awful, so I could see that could happen. Brush. Okay, so now I'm gonna switch colors. So while I'm waiting for these two to dry, see they're quite wet on channel. I'm actually going to be just going over the Volkites, going to get the metallics done on those. These are, the reason that's really handy to have this stick is because I can basically prime these totally separate. And these are like 90% metallic, like metal. So I'm actually going to I'm going to use like a silver on these to prime them. Okay, so got my airbrush. Okay, so a little bit of flow improver. So I just clean out the airbrush, a little bit of flow improver, that. Grab our, this is my favorite metal. It's called black metal from Vallejo. So this is like the, or sorry, from Scale 75. So this is the main metal I use for all my Death Guard. Drops in there. It always jams up though, so that's the one thing I don't like these, I don't like about these bottles. I have a little tool here that I use to de-jam them. Or to always have a tool close by. Oh, looks like this bottle's almost done. I do have another bottle, but I'm hoping I have to go get it. Oh, there we go. That should be good. Okay, so mix up the metallic. Wipe off the brush. Give it a little backflow. Okay, a little test spray. Good. Alright, so I'm just going to space these out a little bit. Got kind of in between them. Better. Again, we want to go kind of thin coats, 2 thin coats, as Duncan would say. I'm just kind of starting from one end. And I'm not really sure. This is the first time I've ever painted Volkite weaponry. I'm not really sure like what the aesthetic's supposed to be. They got these kind of cool coils on them that are very much remind me of like plasma guns. So I'm not really sure what the kind of aesthetic is supposed to be. Like, are they supposed to be glowing? So I'll kind of figure it out once they're painted, what I want to do. All right, so there we go. So four Volkite weapons. These have all been now nice and dark and silver. So I'm gonna leave those to dry. I don't think I'm gonna do a second coat here, just because the fact that I am gonna wash these. Plus the metallic over black is pretty good. If I was say doing this to the obviously for the white I did do 2 coats. So I'm just gonna show you guys again how I clean my airbrush really quickly. So I just have this these 2 pots of water. This is just like my paint water. Thanks, Tom. I appreciate it. Yeah, they are fun to paint. This is just like regular water, and this is actually my like airbrush cleaner water. So this is just basically I get a thing of Simple Green, which is basically a giant tub of like you can get like a 3-liter container for like $10. So I don't use like really expensive airbrush cleaner that you get from like Vallejo. So I'm gonna take my brush. I'm just gonna dump out any excess paint. Now a lot of painters will like to have like a dump bucket, like an empty deli cup like this, where they'll dump all their like extra paint to. But I just usually end up throwing it in my paint water because I do change my paint water quite often. So I'm just gonna kind of dump it and dunk my brush here. Use my kind of old brush to kind of get in there. Give it a little swirl, just like that. So just getting out all the paint. Okay. Then I'm gonna use this little guy here. This is like a water squeeze bottle. Squirt in some water. That's gonna kind of help get any of the last excess water out, or paint out. Dump it in there. Then I'm gonna take my brush, and I'm basically just gonna run it. Just submerge the bowl and just run it in here, and pull back on the trigger. And that's gonna actually push this cleaning solution through the airbrush and kind of push out any sort of like remaining paint. Give it a little, if there's like any exterior paint that I spilled, I'll give it like a little scrub like this. Then I get my water bottle again, give it a little rinse. Empty it out. All right, so that's it. So now my airbrush is totally clean, ready for the next paint. So I'll do that often. That little clean took me about 30 seconds. And I'll do a clean like that basically. You know, sometimes I just disassembled my airbrush today and give it like a deep clean because I'd probably had not done that for about 4 or 5 days. But if I'm doing like a lot of like a long painting session, that's the only cleaning that's required. And then usually what I'll do is before I put it away, I'll just throw a little bit of water in there just to kind of keep it nice and moist. That way, if there is any paint in there, it won't dry because it's going to be covered in water by the next time I use it. But yeah, that's it. So that's how I'm going to do my airbrush. All right, so get rid of this thing. And pull my contemptors. So there's contemptor 1. It's just been, you can feel it's still a little bit wet. So I'm going to leave that. And then contemptor 2. Boom. A little bit wet. Now, the reason it's wet is because the airbrush flow improver is actually a paint retardant. So it'll actually slow down the painting time, the drying time, sorry, which is good. So next what I'm going to do, so this is kind of a little bit of dead time here. So what I could be doing is I could be assembling models. I could be doing something really efficient right now. I'm probably not going to do either. Maybe I'll just chat for a bit while these things dry. I'm going to get my wet palette ready though for the next step. So the next step is going to be to grab my wet palette, off the lid, have a piece of parchment. Yeah, I've painted. If you count my Derridios, this is like the 7th contemptors I painted. Add a little water. This thing's really handy to add water to the wet palette as well. Just clean water. Got my parchment. Stop curling. Right. So I got my weapons, got my contemptors, got my wet palette ready. So for this step here, I'm gonna need some of that decayed metal. Here. Oh.
Second thought, never mind. Things came up.
But even with my metallics, I do usually add a little water. I'm gonna be using a Rosemary & Co. Series 33, number 2 size brush for this. So I'm gonna add a little bit of water, and this is where this comes really handy. So I can add a little bit of water from like clean water onto my wet palette, like right here, and then just use that. Now, obviously, I don't really care when I'm doing this to metallics, but if I was say mixing some regular color paints, I wouldn't want to mix in metallic flakes. That's where the clean water comes in really handy. All right, so these are they are still drying, but I'm just starting to do the trim right now, so it shouldn't be an issue. Oh, start on the trim. So anyways, so Sean Naden played in this tournament. First of all, I want to congratulate him. He, despite all odds, he ran like a super janky Eldar list and won. And a lot of people were kind of saying that Eldar is trash, but I think what Sean Naden has once again proved is not only is he a world-class player, probably one of the best in the world, but um, you know, with enough mastery over your list and built the right way, you can still win. And knowing how to play certain matchups, you can definitely win in just about any scenario. So kudos to him. Um, Now, as far as what happened as far as the drama, like it was discovered afterwards that his list was legal. I think the TOs did the right thing. Like I don't think it would have really taken away from his victory if he had been disqualified. But like he didn't have any more points. It's just the unit size were a little bit off. So the TOs basically said like, look, like the tournament's over. Um, we think he would have won anyways, and I tend to agree. I don't think that that list illegality would have made the tournament different, but I'm sure it sucks to be like Nick Nanavati, who played him in the top finals and lost. Um, but it's hard. I mean, it's hard to be a TO. It's hard to always make the right call. I'm not sure what I would do in that situation if I had to qualify a player. That. I'm excited against. I'm playing the Germans on Wednesday, so tune in on TTS. I want to check that game. Very fun game. I should brass. Let me know in the comments what you guys are painting on. You guys are working on? If you're working. Yeah, Dan, I agree. I'm sure you've had to deal with that kind of stuff, but I kind of feel like, yeah, the TOs did the right thing. Like, I think like, there's enough evidence there that it wasn't like malicious and kind of done intentionally. And then also the fact that the rulebook itself is actually wrong is kind of, for me, kind of does it. The fact that there's like incorrect app data and people are definitely gonna be relying on that stuff to make games moving forward. or to sorry to they're gonna rely on that for rules going forward. So if we can't trust that it's right, I mean that's really a big problem because then there's a lot of people that hate on BattleScribe, but like I kind of feel like um, BattleScribe uh, is wrong sometimes too. But I feel like sometimes people think it's like more wrong than like the GW stuff, and I almost feel like GW is more wrong than BattleScribe. So nice, Dan. Man, I can't watch the Canucks anymore. I feel like I've definitely like I've always been a Canucks fan, but it's just been really hard to watch them play lately, especially with COVID. I'd still go to games and stuff, but everything just feels so like pointless, I guess. So good on you that you're supporting the team. Dan, what do you think of this camera angle? Because I had it a little bit farther back and kind of to the right before, but some people said they wanted to see like really, really big close. Hopefully this is the one. Tired of moving my camera around my desk. Yeah, man, I hear ya. Hey, like I love them just as much as anyone. I just, sometimes you need a break. Super bad. Yeah, okay, great. I still have one more camera on the way, but I was looking into some D, DSLRs, and I was getting one that has the like great features to be able to stream with. Man, they're expensive. Probably like talking like around $1,000 for like between a lens and like uh the dummy battery and like all that other jam. And that's just for like an entry level camera, right? So not quite, I only have like 50 followers, so I can't really justify dropping a grand on camera equipment for 5 people. But if I can get to, I reached Twitch affiliate status, which is amazing, which means now I can like people can like sub to my channel and like gift subscriptions and like give me their Bezos bucks if they have like Twitch Amazon Prime. Really great. I need to get up to 100 subs on YouTube so that I can get like basically a custom channel name because right now my channel name is like super like gargled. So that's kind of the next goal is to get up to 100 subs on YouTube. But I just need to my goal is to have a co-host to my show, but my person that I was supposed to co-host with is like not not moving very fast on getting their shit organized. So at the moment it's just me, which I hope is okay. But I definitely want to put together some more like curated content, things like specific tutorials and stuff. Mostly what everything I do is just normal painting. I just had. Have you ever fallen asleep while you paint? I just had like a moment where like it felt like my eyes were gonna close. Super tired lately, and have to have really bad insomnia. So I've not been sleeping, and just wanted to nap. See, if you're watching on Twitch or Facebook, please make sure to go over to YouTube or uh, Twitch or the other channel and follow on those channels. And make sure to leave on the notification bell so you can go live. I'm going to be trying to get into a more regular stream schedule. To be honest, I just started kind of this whole thing a few weeks ago, so still trying to kind of figure some things out, kind of figure out, you know, how many times a week I want to be streaming. For now, it's kind of just like whenever I'm painting, which is almost every night I paint, a little bit of painting in. 14th Legion. hoping to get more followers. So please make sure to share the stream if you can. What else? Ross. Ross. I'm hesitant to touch the model because I can tell that the airbrush paint is still quite wet. So I gotta kind of be a little bit strategic about this as far as like where I can grab onto the model. Oh man, I just had like a weird wave of like really tired, so I might sport today. Just might have to go nap. I'm exhausted. There on his head. That's bronze. There. I thought it was because maybe I was hungry, but I feel like I ate a lot today. I just very well in it. I've never felt this sleepy on a stream. It's weird. Oh, you know what it is? I didn't have any caffeine today. I've been caffeine free for like 3 days. Like maybe that's starting to affect me. And oh yeah, we just did daylight savings, right? So that means we lost an hour or an hour. I think it's worse. Oh, excuse me. Go out for dinner tonight, but I'm just busted. I mean, you can still kind of see it's shiny, Dan. Like, I wouldn't want to put my finger in it, but because I'm holding it from the base, um, it's not a big deal. The other thing is I did two pretty heavy base coats on this. I think it just depends. Like sometimes I do it, and if it's like fine enough, it almost dries instantly. Um, but like for it to be fully dried and like cured, I definitely give it like a little bit of time. Um, I've definitely had moments where like it seems dry, and then I like touch with my hand and I put my fingerprint like in the paint because it's still like semi-wet, even though it looks dry. So if you're really worried about it, I definitely give it like. Oh, I definitely give it. Oh, excuse me, I'm so rude. Definitely give it a good like 20 minutes, I guess. That's why I kind of move on to other things usually. I don't usually just airbrush. One thing though is like if I am building up like a layer, I won't let like say I'm like building up a blend from like dark green to like white or dark green to light green. I won't like paint it dark green and then wait for it to dry and then do the next layer. So when I'm doing like the same color, I will continue to work with it while it's still wet, and that property of wetness actually will help with a little bit with your transitions because it kind of the two layers kind of I guess like merge into each other a little bit, and it just helps with like your transitions and stuff to make them a little bit more smooth. But I definitely don't think that. Oh whoa, what's coming over me? Jesus Christ. I definitely don't think that like I would like say you just like for instance on these guys, if I didn't have them on bases and I had to handle them, I'd probably give them at least an hour. Just because it's really easy and often happens that you go to touch something that you've airbrushed, and because the layers of paint are so thin on top, it's really easy to actually rub off the paint. So sometimes depending on the model and how I have to hold it for later stages, like if I have a good base that I can hold on to and I have a good stand, I'll just do it normally. But if I don't, if I know there's parts of the model that I've painted that I'm gonna have to hold on to, I'll actually varnish it like mid paint. So I'll go I'll get up like that part finish, and then I'll throw a coat of matte varnish just after that, like one step halfway through, and then I'll varnish again at the end. So that's something that I definitely do depending on how much I think the model is going to get handled during the remainder of the painting process. Because some models you literally just can't assemble, you can't pre-assemble like very well. Um, so what do you think? Oh man, guys, I don't know what's gotten over me. I'm just not feeling very energetic right now. So I think I'm actually gonna call it there. Sorry for the short stream, but thanks for tuning in. I'm like literally passing out here. I don't know. I just had this like wave of like really intense fatigue. So I'm gonna call it there. Thanks for everyone for tuning in. I'm gonna be streaming on Wednesday some TTS games at 12 o'clock against Team Germany. So please make sure to tune in there. Please make sure to follow me on Twitch and YouTube. And if you guys have any questions or want to get a hold of me, feel free to slide in those DMs. All right. Thanks everyone.